Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 12 of Your Favorite Movies. Today, I'm joined by Sasha. And Sasha, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ewan. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me on.
I'm doing pretty good. We met through Jack or Fanatic Film,
Movie drafts.
which is an amazing show. You guys should all go check it out. And now we are
Absolutely.
here, and what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about one of my favorite movies ever, which Ewan I got to introduce him to, and I'm so excited we could talk about it, is Crazy Stupid Love. A fantastic movie and so much more than just a rom-com chick flick, and I can't wait to talk about it today.
I totally agree. I watched it for the first time last night after Sasha told me it was one of her favorites, just in order to make this video, and I absolutely loved it. I went into it going like, yeah, I'm gonna like it, but then I came out, I was like, oh my God, that was so much better than I expected. And do you remember the first time you watched it?
So I was trying to think about this before I got on the call, and I've watched it so many times that I think I just know generally that the first time I saw it was back in high school sometime, and my mom and I love whenever I'm like home or we'd have a weekend where like my brother and my dad were gone that we would like, okay, we're gonna watch like as many chick flicks or just like watch just like any random like comedy movie that the two of us want to watch. Because I don't know if you're this way, Ewan, but when my family tries to sit down to watch a movie, everyone's got different tastes. So when it's only two
Oh my
people,
God, I know.
you can kind of narrow it down a little bit more. And so Crazy Stupid Love was one of those movies I remember coming out when I was like too young to go to theaters to watch it. And I was like, Mom, please, can we watch this movie? And she was like, sure. And we just ended up like falling in love with it. And I don't know. We'll talk about some more of the stuff that happens in the movie, but it's one of my favorite movies because of some of the reveals in it to like bring back and like show people who've never seen it before and get to experience that all over again.
Yeah, again, like I watched it for the first time last night, and just the reveals, as you mentioned, were amazing. And I definitely want to like watch reactions to this movie now, like
Yeah.
on YouTube, or watch it like with. I mean, like it doesn't seem like a movie that you would watch with friends, but when you're actually like watching it, you're like, you got Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell, and you just keep slapping him in the face,
Yeah.
and it's like this isn't really a chick flick or whatever you want to call it. It's barely even a rom-com. It's like I feel like
Yeah.
it's more so comedy than
It
romance
really
in a
is,
lot of the scenes.
especially because it does follow like Steve Carell's Cal and Jacob, which is Ryan Gosling's character. You're with them most of the movie, which definitely like takes out a little bit of the like cringiness that you would normally
Yeah.
expect from a movie like this.
Yeah, like they take scenes that seem all stereotypical and then they kind of flip it on its head. And I think that was really
Mhm.
cool. And the only scene I knew like going into it, like I had seen the poster a bunch, but I knew the part where Emma goes, "Fuck, your body's like photoshopped."
That
That's one of
is
my
like one of
favorite
the best
lines.
scenes. Yes.
Fuck! Seriously? It's like you're photoshopped.
So amazing. And I was like, I want to know what the context of it is. And it was really funny because obviously I love Emma Stone. She's one of my favorite actresses. Same with Julianne Moore, actually. And
Yeah.
to see those two, I don't know why I didn't think of this. I only thought of this after I think I read some review. They have Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone in this movie. They're also in La La Land as a couple, and I
Yes.
didn't even compare it. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, and it's ironic that you bring that up because that's like my favorite movie of all time. But obviously Jack's already done that one here, and I was like, if we gotta follow it up with something else, not only do I love Crazy Stupid Love, but it's also Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. And oh, I forgot what I was gonna say, but like, yeah, no, they were also in Gangster Squad together, which I've never seen.
Oh, I
But
haven't
that
seen
was
that
like the
either.
third one where they're like a couple. And in each one, it's really funny. I think they meet in a bar in each one. So it's like a trope that's just been thrown in every single Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling movie at this point. It's like they got to meet at a bar.
They'll do some SNL skit on that soon, I
Oh
bet.
yes,
But it
absolutely.
it's really great, especially because you have this good like it's good contrast as well. I mean, the cast is amazing. I think we could talk about the amazing cast here. Steve Carell,
Yes.
Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, Julianne Moore, Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
So many people. And that the son, I don't know what his name is, but he's really good in the movie.
Yes. Yes, he's in something and then the daughter, the youngest daughter
Is in The
is
Conjuring. I forget what her name is.
yeah,
Molly something.
something like that. I think she was also in Ramona and Beezus or something, which was like a really like young kid movie that came out with Selena Gomez. I think she was the younger sister. But
Uh,
I like she was a pretty famous kid star.
Yeah, I'm just checking. Joey King. I don't know how. Oh, Molly's her
Yes.
name. Yeah. Oh, she was in the
Yes.
kissing booth? Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Not one of my favorite movies.
We will not be talking about that one on here. Yeah, it's really amazing. And Marissa Tom, whatever the hell her name is, like Marissa
Marissa
Tom.
Tomei. Yeah.
Tomei, that's what it is. She's so funny. She has some of my favorite scenes. And this, it gets kind of crazy. And that's another one of the reveals. I think we can just jump to it. The reveals of this
Yeah.
movie are really what make it. That scene where they're sitting outside the classroom, and I do like how they're kind of split apart. Opens the door, she walks out. I was like, no
No
way.
way.
He
That's
slept
one of
with
the
his eighth grade English teacher.
because I think there's even like I haven't rewatched it in probably like a month, but I'm pretty sure she says like when they're like going back to Steve Carell's apartment, like, oh yeah, I'm a teacher or something, but like
Yep.
doesn't
Yes.
think anything of it. And then of course, so it's those little things that I love that's like planted earlier in the movie that you just dismiss, and then like
Yeah.
later it's like, oh wait, yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah,
I
no,
didn't
she's great.
I didn't even think of that. Like, it's just maybe it's just me, but like when she said it, I was like, okay, she's a teacher because he goes
Right.
boring, right? As he's like trying to get her to talk about herself, which is a very funny scene. I do like seeing Ryan Gosling trying to teach him his tips, and then he just totally fails every
Kind of
single
trying to
time.
teach him to be a douche, and then he like fails
Yeah,
at it.
he completely fails, and even when he has something, he still fails, and it's
Hmm.
like full circle, and it's funny. I do like how there's actually a little bit of an arc with Ryan Gosling's character. He starts off with, as you said, like the douchey character with all the
Yeah.
womanizer, as they say, and then by the end, he's like actually caring about Emma Stone, who turns out to be Steve Carell's
Steve
daughter,
Carell's
which
daughter.
was my favorite scene of the entire movie. I told Sasha this, but when I was watching the movie, I was like laying in bed because I was watching it last night, and then as Julianne Moore's blindfolded, and then Steve Carell's, they're walking out with her, and then Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone walk out of the house. I sat up in bed and then just like sat there. I was like, no way. And I just sat there for like 5 minutes. I was in shock.
It's such a good, especially because of the whole like Nana and like I just remember that being the name of the dog in Peter Pan. But then like
Oh yeah.
obviously like saying Nana, it's like, oh, they're talking about the grandma and they like check in on her and whatever periodically throughout the movie. And then you're like, it was under my nose the whole time. And like you said right before we got on this, Ewan, of like they're both redheads. So
Yeah.
it's like it makes sense in the end, but you just don't see it coming because they're never together and there's no reference of like she even says like, oh, I'm gonna go introduce him to my mom, not even like my parents or
Yeah.
something. So
I
just
don't know what it is. It's so smart, but like it's like the subtle bits that are so smart
yeah,
that I think that's what really makes this movie special. Like for me, when I finished, I was like, yeah, this is a 5 out of 5 movie. I did not expect that going into it,
going in.
and that whole scene just builds and gets better and better because then Kevin Bacon shows up, and which obviously, as we talked about again before this, you should do your impersonation of what Ryan Gosling does in that scene.
David Lindhagen, and then he just socks him in the face.
I'm David Lindhagen.
David Lindhagen.
David Lindhagen.
Okay.
Is this a bad time?
Yeah.
Jacob! It's like, okay,
It's so
sounds good. I can take care of this.
It's so funny how that I was like, no way. And then as that's all happening, there's even more because the babysitter and the babysitter's parents find how do I say this so YouTube doesn't demonetize the envelope with pictures in it that was for
Yes.
Cal.
Yes.
And they think, of course, because it's something else, because they've heard rumors about Cal. And then the dad comes in, and then they're all just like piled on top of each other, trying to hurt each other. And then it just cuts to like them talking to the cops who are all sitting there. And then one of them says, like, I think it's one of the cops says, just keep it in the family. And then that gets the iconic like meme of Ryan Gosling just laughing like this. He just laughs. Steve Carell's just like, shut up.
Don't even say anything. Like, I'm not in the mood. And the whole, like, in the background, there was this whole, like, sweet, like, windmill mini golf thing. And it's just, like, totally destroyed by the end of it.
He picks the windmill thing up and tries to hit him with it.
It's just that, like, chaotic, like, ending, but it, like, totally is, like, justified by the rest of the movie. Like, just of
Yeah.
all of this coming together. And you can just imagine it, like, actually taking place of, like, all of these things that aren't, like, too far-fetched. And then they just, like, collide to create this, like, giant mess at the end. I love that, like,
Yeah.
final scene.
And it's amazing because it's like it's a final scene, but there's even more with the movie. And what I also really love is how it all is like pieced together, but it also makes sense. Like it's not like
Yeah.
it's all thrown together. When they do show up and everybody shows up, you're like, oh my God, this all really does make sense. That's why,
Mhm.
she isn't one of the kids who still lives at the house. There isn't all this, so that's why we didn't see her before. So it makes total sense, and it's not like it totally would have failed if it was just like thrown together. It was just
Yeah.
like little things. But I do like how it wasn't. It was just like it's smartly planned out. There's all this, and then I feel like the actual ending of the movie is pretty sweet as well.
It's very like heartwarming and wholesome and like that's definitely the one moment that I think like ages it or makes it feel a little bit more like the rom-com aspect,
Yeah,
but
the
because
chick
that
flick.
scene, yeah, exactly. It's got that classic like everyone ends up happy and we're all like good to
Yeah,
go and everyone's in love and da da da. But like I do think like you said, like the writing is just so good and I've seen so many movies like this try to accomplish the like, oh, like you don't see this coming and there's a twist like so and so is actually related or like people just trying to get everyone together in one space at the end. And this cast, like, I think I realized this the last time I rewatched it. It's kind of limited to like those characters that do show up in that end scene. Like, obviously, there's the Marissa Tomei or like Emma Stone's friend or like Josh Groban's character who's like in the beginning that are kind of just throwaway
yeah.
roles. But like all those main characters end up being in that scene, and that's kind of who the movie's about. And that's where I think it's like you have a big cast, but like you kind of limit it to this one situation, and it's almost like they worked backwards from there. Like, okay, now we got to tell each of
Yeah.
these people's story to how they get to this like this brawl in the backyard.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a really good way. And Marissa Tomei is in the ending too, so it kind of helps because she's like one of
Hmm.
the teachers sitting there, and then when Steve Carell comes up, she's just like,
Yeah.
and it's just like little things. Everybody around is like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Why are you doing that? Yeah.
And it's definitely a more not stereotypical, but like you expect a moment like that at the end. But for me, it
Hmm.
worked because it was definitely leading to something. There was a reason why they kept talking about love and how some hated it. Some loved it. That's a terrible way to describe it, but you
Yeah,
know what I
I know what
mean.
you're saying.
And it kind of works. And the movie's like 2 hours long. Like it's longer than most chick flicks. It's like normally I expected when I started, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be like probably hour and a half. No, it's nearly 2 hours, and I didn't feel like the pacing at all. I was so invested in the story. Like I
Yes.
wanted to see what Steve Carell was gonna do and what was gonna happen with Ryan Gosling. Like, was he finally gonna learn his ways? And then when Steve Carell's finally walking and he's got like the tie and just the way it's shot is very different and it's smart like that. And it's directed by two directors, which I think helped a
I did not
lot.
notice that or know that actually. I knew that the screenwriter, Dan Fogelman, he also wrote Tangled, but the kind of the reason I like put everything together and was like, "Oh my gosh, it's two of my favorite things ever." He is the like creator and showrunner of This Is Us, which if you've seen This Is Us, you and I don't know if you have, but it's very
I've
much the
seen
same.
clips.
It's very much the same, like everything's connected but you're not really sure how until it like hits you in the face. And I think like it's he started to write that as a movie and I can see where now it works better as a TV show because it's just there's so much going on. But like it, I don't know, when I that clicked in my brain I was like, this is so like, I don't know, it just all goes together. But I didn't know it was directed by two different people.
I just saw that when it ended, it just said directed by two, and I was like, I feel like that's kind of smart because you have the person who's there to direct all the comedy, and it really works. Like, I don't remember the directors' names. I'll put them on the screen, and I probably have seen like little things from them, but nothing like their names didn't really stick out to me, at
Yeah.
least not from memory. But I feel like that kind of works because there's also some emotional scenes here. Like I think in all the emotional beats, I think they work honestly
Mm-hmm.
because we have the comedy. There's just like absurd laugh out loud moments as we discuss, but there are also some pretty like sad scenes, even in the start, like when Steve Carell jumps out of the car. It's funny, but you're also like, damn, like when he's like, just stop talking, stop. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like he's really feeling it, like you could tell, and I think that he's also fantastic in the movie. Like this is some of the best work I've seen from him.
Yes, it's I totally agree with you. Like the balance of comedy and like there's a couple scenes when they're at the mall that are obviously comedic when Steve Carell meets Ryan Gosling at the mall and he's like, "Are you the billionaire owner of Apple Computers?" And he like takes the shoes and throws them
Throws
overboard.
him.
Like I think there's scenes like that that like I love the cinematography because it just makes it funnier, like the way it's
Yes.
shot. But there's those scenes at the beginning where it's like, oof, yeah, like he just like he'd rather jump out the car and like face the
Yeah.
consequences of that than like be in this
Standing in the
car with
rain too.
yeah, that or when he's outside the house and he calls and she like goes and pretends to check the like
It's
thing
the
and
the
he's watching.
box. Yeah.
Mhm. It is. It's very like it's got the like the comedy, obviously, but it's grounded in this like really like real raw circumstance that like I don't know. I think I agree that like I think it's one of Steve Carell's best or one of my favorites of him, because obviously we love him as Michael Scott in The Office, but
Yes.
like you don't get to see this same like emotional depth with him,
No.
or even like it's almost more quirky comedy, whereas here it's like he's actually having to like work through these like
Yes.
deep things with comedy, and I don't know, it's great.
Yeah, it's really smart because obviously, Michael Scott's a whole other conversation, but everything to him, everything's joke, everything's comedy,
Yes.
and it works. Whereas here, he's trying to kind of be a good person, but Ryan Gosling's trying to change him, at least for like the first half of the movie in the bar and all
Hmm.
that. And you see him really trying to be, in his mind, a better or at least more likable person,
Yeah.
according to Ryan Gosling. But we know we're like, no, dude, like that's not what you should do. And Ryan
Right.
Gosling is just, of course, amazing here. I said this last year when I had a podcast with Carter Anderson. We were talking about who was the most consistent actor of the 2010s, and we both said Ryan Gosling. For now, I would say Ryan Gosling and Jake Gyllenhaal, but like this just adds to it. We had
Yeah.
Drive, La La Land, this movie, The Nice Guys. There's a ton. Place Beyond the Pines, like even some movies I haven't seen. There's so many movies, and this just adds to it. And he's really great in the movie.
Yes, he's definitely like I love that this movie, it's kind of like you said, it's a whole dichotomy of like comedy and then kind of really sad drama. And then like even just Ryan Gosling's character, he's almost playing like the joke version of himself, of like the really sexy like douchebag womanizer. And then by the end he becomes like a really deep lovable person that like wants to change because he's so in love with Emma Stone's character. And like I totally agree with that statement, because like he is just in every role he manages to be funny, a great actor and give great performance, but also just be like charismatic, and like you just
Yes.
always want to watch him on screen. And he like I don't know, as much as Steve Carell gives a great performance in this, like it's kind of Ryan Gosling's movie in my sense, because he, like you said, he's got a more like obvious arc, whereas Cal kind of just
Yes.
picks up bits and pieces of what he does along the way. But like yeah, no, I totally agree with that statement. I love Ryan Gosling, and he's one of those actors that I'm like, I want to work through his entire filmography, just because it's
Yes.
like I know there's not going to be, even if there's a movie I don't like as much, he's going to be great in it. So like
Yeah,
that's enough of a
exactly.
driving
And
force.
like he's one of my favorite actors, I'll say, because he's able to make me like one of the most popular chick flicks of all time, The Notebook. I love that movie so much, and a lot of the
Yes.
reason is because of him, and of course Rachel McAdams. But like he's so good there. He's so good here, and as you said, like his charisma, that's what really makes it, because it makes it so entertaining. Because he's
Hmm.
going around, he's picking up all these women. You're thinking in your head, what he's doing is really bad, but then just watching him do it, it's like so fascinating, just the way he does it. And then he's
Yes.
just like, oh yeah, I'll buy you a drink. And then, he just keeps going. He's kind of persistent, which again, depending on whatever, it could kind of be annoying, but for him it works. And then when he's talking to Emma Stone and we have that incredible Photoshop line, he also explains his trick, which is the dirty
Yes.
dancing trick, which was so funny.
I love speaking of that scene, like I've watched so many interview clips of the two of them, just like from La La Land, from this, from Gangster Squad, whatever. But like when they talk about that scene, I love it because they have this such natural like on-screen chemistry as like people in a romantic relationship. Like you fully invest in every movie they're in. Like you're like, yes, they belong together. I totally am in. But there's also like they balance that like funny friendship. Like they're great comedically together too, which you see at
Yes.
the beginning of like La La Land with the like I'll see you in the movies, like when he's in the fireman outfit and whatever.
Yeah.
But like they just have this comedic chemistry as well as romantic. And I love that whole sequence of like he just kind of admits to her what the line is, and she's like, okay, so we're gonna go here in the living room or something like that. And then
Yeah.
they end up just going and looking at all his Brookstone stuff. Like I just love that sequence of events.
Yeah, she's like, oh, couch or bedroom? He's like,
Yeah.
bedroom. She's like, okay, that's what I thought.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
as they're like starting to, she's just talking, and then he's like trying to, but then he gets interested, and it shows a change in his character,
Mhm.
even in a very interesting way, depending on your age. And then you are still like so invested because you're like, it's kind of funny to see this guy laugh with this girl and like just talk to her
Yes.
instead of just sleeping with her. And I think that's what makes him such an interesting character. I couldn't tell if I would call this Steve Carell's movie or Ryan Gosling's or
Hmm.
whatever, but it's really great. And then of course, talking about more of the supporting, Julianne Moore is fantastic
Oh
here,
my
and Emma
gosh.
Stone as well.
Both of them are great. I love I just love Emma Stone's whole character because, like, again, it is kind of like who she is of like she's that like quirky, like funny actress, but like she also has this like she's an Oscar winner at this point. Like not
Yeah.
at the time that she filmed this movie, but she is now, and like you see even that like come across in the way she delivers like that. It looks like you're photoshopped. Like the way she just delivers these lines and like does all this stuff is great. And I totally agree. Julianne Moore is like one of the unsung heroes of this movie because she's the wife and you're not really following her story as much. But she too like does the same thing as Steve Carell. She balances the like the humor of like reacting to him jumping out of the car with also like she's like awkward on the dates with Lindhagen, but like she's also kind of you see where she's interested in him and like I don't know, I think she gives a great performance as well.
I totally agree. I think that she is absolutely amazing here. And Emma Stone's really like they're both actually, I could say this about them both, is that they don't feel like or they're not actually in the movie that much, or at least Emma Stone
Hmm.
isn't, but they make a really like long-lasting impact. Like you
Yeah.
really feel like they were there for half the movie. It feels like half Ryan Gosling, Steve Carell, half Julianne
Yeah,
Moore, and Emma
exactly.
Stone. Whereas like Emma Stone's probably only in 30 minutes of the movie at most. That's
Yeah.
just my guess. But like she just has so many scenes, and the movie is also very self-aware. You know, when she decides to kind of end things with her, you know, nerdy kind of ex,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
she runs in with the rain, and then she like kisses him, and then as when they're back, she's like, yeah, I kind of lost all my confidence. I was just kind of wet and cold. It's just like little things like that. And again, like talking about the line delivery, it's amazing.
It is. The dialogue in this movie is probably one of my favorite things because it's funny enough to be a comedy movie, but it's not so over exact. Like the characters are saying things that you as an audience member would think in that same situation. Like when she says the Photoshop line, it's like that's how every person has felt about Ryan Gosling since he came onto the scene. And
Yeah.
like or things like I can't even think of anything else, but like the Velcro wallet when he's like, "Is that Velcro? Don't tell me that's Velcro." And like she just rips like it's just the delivery of these lines of like you could see a real person saying that. So even though it's in this like hyper comedy, hyper dramatized situation, like it's just their delivery of it makes it feel so realistic.
Yeah, like you have obviously, you know, Ryan Gosling throwing shoes off and dragging him around and everything and slapping his face like this 24/7, but it doesn't feel like out of place. I think everything about this movie is really, really good. You know, you have some amazing direction for the comedy, for the drama, for really everything here. Sweet moments as well. Everybody's good.
Yeah.
Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, Julianne Moore, Marissa Tomei, even the kids. They're all really
Yeah.
good here. And the babysitter, I think, is also very, very good.
She
I
plays
want to
that
see her
role
more.
very, very well of
Yeah,
like the awkward kind of babysitter of like,
yeah,
even though it's a situation where you're like, oh, that's kind of weird and awkward, she just plays it so well. And I love the part when she's at
yeah.
the high school and she's talking to the other girl and she's like, he's like an older guy. And she's like, you're crazy. Like,
That all
like if
seems
only
so
she
funny.
knew.
Yeah, oh God. It's so like I didn't expect what was gonna happen in that scene, but it really worked for me. Overall, this movie was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I do want to really revisit this one sometime soon because I think it's already one of my favorite rom-coms, especially because it doesn't feel like your average run-of-the-mill
Yeah.
romantic comedy. I think that's what makes it special. And Sasha, I have to thank you for coming on. It was a lot of fun to talk about this movie. I really wanted to talk about it. So I was glad this was a great conversation.
I'm so glad you got to watch it, you, and I'm so glad you liked it so much because it is. I totally feel the same way. Like it's not one of those movies where you think like the romance isn't the biggest part of the movie. It's just kind of a sweet like cherry on top. So thank you so much for having me on. I had a blast talking about this movie. Now I just want to go rewatch it again.
I get the feeling, and all of Sasha stuff will be linked down below. Obviously, she's partially the co-host on Movie Draft. Check out that, and then her and Jack, or Fanatic Films, who's also been on here, talk about Loki a lot, and those are always great.
Yes.
And once again,
Thank
you
you.
guys, tell us what you think of Crazy Stupid Love in the comments down below. Is it one of your favorite rom-coms like it is for both of us? And thank you all for watching. See you guys next time. Over and out.